Welcome to part 39 of Basic Training. Today we're going to cover everything you need to know to play Ice Ice Outpost on 150cc. The recommended build for this course is going to be our usual tryhard build of DK, Bitty Buggy, Azure Rollers, and Paper Glider. Yes, DK instead of Waluigi, since statistically they're identical, and I'm trying to add a little bit of variety in these videos. Now there aren't really any shortcuts on this track, so we're going to hold down the item button before the run begins so that we can use our mushroom to get up to top speed immediately. We're then going to immediately start a left drift and build up a mini turbo, and then do another left drift around the turn. After that, grab the coin on the left and build up an ultra mini turbo around the next right turn. Doing this first part of the run optimally pretty much requires that you have a good handle on soft drifting, so if you're finding all those extra drifts tricky, just do a single mini turbo around the first turn and a super mini turbo around the next turn. Okay, we're going to do something a bit different and cut to the most recent Waluigi world record set by Alberto on May 16th, 2019. That's because this next strategy is one of the most annoying things in the game. After coming around that right turn, we're going to do a left hop into a right drift and grab the 2 coins. You want to make sure to move over to the right hand side of the green path and then start another right drift. Then widen your drift angle until you're a couple of kart lengths away from this big metal divider, at which point you want to soft drift off the track to land on the first ramp. Start holding left and trick off the rightmost arrow on that ramp, and then land in a drift and do a right trick off the middle arrow of the second ramp. This ridiculous setup is basically required so that you can land in a wide left drift on the path below, drift onto the shortcut path, grab the 2 coins, and mini turbo trick off the ramp before tricking off the final ramp to get back on the main path. There's like a million ways this can go wrong, some of which you're going to see when we watch my full personal best. But just know that that is the setup that we're trying to go for. Now let's talk alternate strategies. One of the main issues with all this is that when you do that slide trick off the second ramp, it's going to change your alignment a bit, which is actually what allows us to grab the 2 coins on the alternate path in the first place. But more often than not, it's just going to cause you to either miss the path entirely or fly off the track after tricking off the ramp. So I just avoid doing that drift, instead opting to just drive straight up the second ramp so that I can more easily guarantee that I've got good alignment when going off of it. Now like I said before, you want to land from that trick in a wide left drift and try and do a mini turbo trick off the leftmost arrow if possible. But this whole setup is precise enough that just as long as you're able to land on the next part of the path and then trick back onto the track, you're in good shape. The next annoying thing is the mini turbo trick on the alternate path. If your alignment is messed up when you land in that left drift, there's about 3 different ways you can fall off the track. So if you don't want to mess with trying to get the mini turbo trick, what you can do instead is when tricking off the second ramp, aim your kart towards this gigantic bit of ice right here. When you land, you should be able to literally just drive straight onto the path. But make sure that you move from the right side of the path to the left, kind of following this line as best as you can. Keep holding left when you trick off of this ramp and the next one, and you should be able to land on the track just like before. Finally, if the second part of the shortcut is still giving you too many headaches, just ignore it and instead start a left drift on the green path and then mini turbo trick off the ramp at the end. Now once we're done with all that, we've got to do this weird path switching stuff, the point being to make sure that we're taking the innermost path at all times. The way it works is after passing the 3rd coin on the green path, start a wide left drift at the top of this hill to build up a mini turbo while moving onto the yellow path. After building up that mini turbo, do another left drift and hit the spin booster while moving back onto the green path. Trick off the glider at the end of the path, and then when coming up on the coins, you kind of want to put your joystick in a 12 o'clock position so that you can grab 2 coins simultaneously. Now the next thing we need to do is land from the glider in a right drift and then drift straight off the track here to land on the ramp below. I've found that holding right for a bit to move towards the middle of the ramp and then putting the joystick in a neutral position is a pretty consistent setup for being able to make sure that your kart lands on the second ramp to get another trick. But as long as you make it onto the first ramp successfully, you shouldn't have too many problems with being able to finish up the lap without falling off the track. Lap 2 is pretty much the same as lap 1 except for the fact that we're going to use our mushroom around the turn before the first cut. The visual cue that I use is to wait until I pass the start of the railing on the right hand side of the track. This is going to force you to take a wider turn, which gives you much more freedom to build up the Ultra Mini Turbo than on lap 1, where we were pretty much forced to soft drift. Other than that, the only thing to talk about is the world record. They use Baby Daisy instead of DK, which, as you should all know by this point, means more mini turbos and higher levels of mini turbo. But one particularly ridiculous strategy is the first shortcut on laps 2 and 3, where they do a bunch of back and forth mini turbos and then use their mushroom when getting onto the first ramp. Then when they land in the green and yellow bit, they do a bunch of alternating mini turbos going back and forth between the paths before doing the strategy that we did before. The other thing they do is motion glider off of the glider ramp. You can do something similar with the Waluigi build, but I found that the setup is kind of precise, and I usually ended up losing time when attempting it myself, which is why I don't go for it in my own run. Between this and my Excitebike Arena video, is it obvious why I never go for baby strats myself yet? Alright, we are done talking about all the strategies, let's whine about the track for a while checking out my current personal best. And by the way, if you found this video helpful so far, please don't forget to click the like button since this is by far the best way to help the video get spread to more people. Thanks, I really do appreciate it. Now, Ice Ice Outpost. What a show of a track. This is one of the few examples I can think of tracks where the difficulty is entirely contained in one shortcut, at least if you're running the usual tryhard build like I am. Yeah, some soft drifting is required for building up some of the ultra mini turbos and whatnot, but soft drifting is like the bare minimum in terms of skills that you need to have to be a decent time trialer, so I don't really count that when rating the difficulty of a track. But man, that shortcut is something else. The setup is so ridiculously precise that I'm honestly more consistent with the Shy Guy Falls shortcut than I am with getting a successful lap completed on Ice Ice Outpost. Now, I provided a bunch of alternate strats that you can use to take the cut, and that's because it really does save a ridiculous amount of time, even if you're just using the version with no drifting. And since there aren't really any off-road shortcuts to take on this track, mastering this shortcut can really put you ahead of the pack. Aside from that, the only other thing that should really give you problems is the cut at the end. Specifically trying to get 2 tricks instead of flying over the second ramp. It doesn't seem like it should be that big of a deal, but I found that I'd consistently lose about 0.2 to 0.3 seconds on laps where I didn't get it. So again, I definitely recommend spending the time to learn how to master this strategy. One thing I should point out about those shortcuts though is that if you do get someone else who knows how to play the track, you better be careful because those paths are super narrow, which means that they're really good places to put bombs and bananas. Now I know that I spent a lot of time whining about the track, but once you start to understand how to play it properly online, it's honestly a lot of fun, especially because it seems like so few people know how to hit all the shortcuts. It's always fun when I'm playing with my group and you start to hear people in Discord say like, man, how is Basic way the hell up there? It's why I keep saying the best way to improve at the game is to do the time trials, and this course is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. And that's everything you need to know to play Ice Ice Outpost on 150cc. I definitely have a love-hate relationship with this course, but I hope that after watching this video, I can skew you all a bit more to the love side of that equation. Thank you all very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I will see you in the next video.